Is the audio better now?
Yeah, the audio is a little bit better. And just for me to
Okay.
say that Chris Hunter from the Schenectady Museum has given us permission to record the meeting. And this is February 1st, 2021, Schenectady Amateur Radio Association's meeting. Chris, it's all up to you.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna, I guess before I share the screen, I'll just give a little update on my eye. This especially for the SMARA folks in the audience tonight. So we're actually getting ready to do some renovations on the classrooms in the next couple months. And we're actually anticipating being closed to the public until the beginning of May. Taking advantage of the downtime to do some things around the building, actually getting ready to replace the HVAC systems and changing up the exhibits a little bit. Because quite frankly, when we were open in the fall, we really kind of found that, and we were actually kind of glad that we weren't getting a whole lot of people at the museum. And that, 70 people on a Saturday was like an absolutely wonderful day for us. So people have, for the most part, been heeding COVID pretty good. Okay, so the one consequence, again, that the SMARA folks would have been aware of is originally in fall of 2020, we were going to have an exhibit called Connected about the history of and kind of science of communications technology, kind of looking from, pre-electric all the way up through the smartphone, and who knows what's coming next. And radio was going to be a big part of that. We actually pushed that off to the fall of 2022. So the first two slides are just kind of talking about that a little bit, and because especially with the connection to SMARA, we were really going to make sure that amateur radio had a good role in that. So that's one of the photos from our WGY photo collection. One of the DJs named Vern Cook in the 50s juggling records. And again, as the SMARA folks know, we also have a whole lot of unique recordings in the collection going back to radio programs from the 1920s, the programs that were actually recorded onto film at the time, and that we had a GE engineer build the equipment to actually digitize them, probably, about 10 years ago now. And in our collection, we also have over 100 radios, including this radio here. This was GE's first tube radio from about 1914. And this was used to hook up for experimental communication between Schenectady and Pittsfield. And over the intervening 8 years, that experimental communication kind of fell to the wayside and eventually became WGY. But the main subject for tonight is the Broughton family, Henry and William. So often referred to as the first family of amateur radio. And this is Henry Broughton, and Henry was born just a couple months after the Civil War ended in July 1865. He was actually, put in perspective for the engineering crowd, he was born 3 months after Charles Steinmetz. So really of that era. He graduated from Cornell in 1890 and went to work for a power company in St. Louis, Missouri. And being one of the new guys on the block in 1893, Nikola Tesla was coming to town to give his phosphorescent demonstration. I guess it was based on a famous one he had done in London earlier that year. And Henry was assigned to be Tesla's assistant for the 5 days he was in town. So he actually got to go up on stage with Tesla and work as his assistant during the show. And what Tesla threw into the show was sending radio waves across the stage and kind of opening and closing the circuit, and then basically the radio waves would go across the stage. They'd illuminate a Geissler tube, and as the circuit opened and closed, the tube flashed on and off, and essentially giving off Morse code. And that can, at least in the eyes of the Broughtons and many others, that was really one of the first true demonstrations of radio. So on the left-hand side is an article about the event, and the right-hand side is a letter that Tesla wrote to Henry Broughton, thanking him for his assistance and including a picture. So this is Henry again with some of his equipment later in life. So Henry by 1902 had moved to the Fort Wayne Electric Works as a sales manager, and that was essentially part of General Electric. And it was February 22nd that year that William was born. Shortly after that, the family moved to Kirkland, Illinois, a suburb, well, what would now be a suburb of west of Chicago. And in 1914, the year that GE built its first tube radio, William Broughton, at the age of 12, built his first radio. One of the challenges in talking about the Broughtons right now are all of William's papers are out at Cornell University. So getting access to them is pretty darn near impossible at the moment with COVID, but so there's a kind of a great future research opportunity there. So William had a variety of licenses over the years: 9SD, W9SD, 9JM, 8NJ, and then ultimately W2IR. And W2IR, after William's death, was assigned to SARA at the Schenectady Museum. So while William was able to get licensed pretty quickly, one of Henry's challenges during his life, which is, I guess, documented in William's papers pretty good, is that because Henry had a rural birth and didn't have a birth certificate or a documented birth, they had a devil of a time getting Henry licensed, and it took decades of efforts to finally make it possible. So in 1919, William goes to his father's alma mater, Cornell, to study electrical engineering. So here, during World War I, William lets his license go as the government mandates that the amateur radios are silenced, and then reapplies and gets relicensed after the war, both at home and a station at Cornell. Graduates from Cornell in 1924, and then joins General Electric in its test program in December 1924. This is the notice in the GE Works News. See, 62 men entered the GE test that month, and the listing for the two gentlemen from Cornell College are at the bottom of the page there. So the test program, for those that aren't familiar, is basically the postgraduate training program for engineers. So you got your training in college, and then GE turned around and trained you how they wanted you to be trained. And they essentially did, they sent you around the company testing different types of equipment. So you would get to know so you would get to know the GE equipment. You would then get to know where you wanted to be, and then the company got a sense of where it was best to put you. So for William's case, with his interest in radio, they put him in AC engineering in 1926, working with water wheel generators. So he stayed there for a couple of years, and then switched over to aeronautics and marine engineering, where, among other things, he worked on aircraft radios. So that was really still in its infancy at the time. And then if you're kind of a really good engineer at GE, they would put you in the advanced course in engineering, which was basically an on and off 3-year course. We don't have Broughton's course materials, but we do have samples of all these course materials in the MySci archives. And then in 1930, he moved into radio transmitter engineering. So this is actually a wartime picture from our GE photo collection. For those who aren't familiar, we have pretty much GE's entire photograph collection at the museum, which is currently about 2 million photographs. And this is radio transmitter manufacturing in the Schenectady plant in 1943. So William was more on the engineering side. So while he was working with radio aircraft engineering, apparently for Navy G-1 patrol planes and the M1X Universal aircraft, the two-way radio equipment for those. So Henry and his wife Jane, William's mother, moved to Schenectady in 1931. That was probably around Henry would have been, I think, about 66 years old at that time, so probably retirement age, and moving with his son. I guess a sample of his letterhead kind of called him he referred to himself as a self-employed independent contractor since 1893 in home modernization. Then for those that knew William, he moved to 1048 Parkwood, which was his longtime home, in 1939. And during this decade, for those longtime members of SARA, SARA was formed in 1930, and William's a charter member. SARA has its first meeting on February 9th, 1930, after an ice storm had disrupted communication lines between Schenectady, Saratoga, and Glens Falls. And the amateur operators kind of stepped in and kept the information flowing, and then decided it would be good to formalize an organization to kind of keep that going. So one of the things that Henry and William, through their lives, they always kind of embodied that belief in preparation and public service, and that they were really the keys to amateur radio. So Henry had a 1939 Ford station wagon that he kept filled with equipment and batteries. So he would always be ready to help at a moment's notice. And for the big jobs, he also had a trailer mounted generator that he could hook up to the station wagon and just keep going. So during World War II, again, the government, specifically the Navy, I believe, shut down amateur radio for the duration of the war. William Broughton was a little bit smarter than he was during World War I, and he got himself appointed to the Schenectady County Consolidated Office of Civilian Protection and received a license for emergency communication. So he was able to keep going during the war. And then in 1943, William and Henry started an emergency station, WKNT5. And by the way, this is William with an experimental FM station in a car in 1943. We've got more pictures of that coming up. And basically with their emergency station, they relayed and transmitted messages as needed, and really helped provide the origin for this Schenectady Emergency Broadcast Network. But once the war ended and the Red Cross became involved in the emergency network, William sold the equipment apparently for a nice little profit. So one of the things, while Williams involved in radio transmitter engineering in the 1930s, GE's exploring this new type of radio called FM. So this is a picture. Fortunately, it's with the cabinet closed, but it's one of the very first FM radio receivers ever built. And this is from January 1939. And also in 1939, this is GE outfitting the Schenectady Fire Department with a brand new ultra high frequency two-way radio system. This is the police chief, James Higgins, in his car in front of the old fire station on Erie Boulevard. So one of the collections we have at the museum are the papers of William C. White, who was Irving Langmuir's cousin, and worked for probably about 40 plus years in the GE Research Laboratory on vacuum tubes, and basically wrote the history on vacuum tubes and collected all sorts of radio documentation. So this is one of their conferences on FM transmitters, the minutes and notes of the conference from March 1939, and the attendees: Wham from Rochester, Stromberg Carlson, a whole bunch of GE people, and Major Edwin Armstrong, the inventor of FM. So while RCA was kind of off doing its own thing, GE was actually partnering with Armstrong and trying to kind of scale up Armstrong's work on FM. They were building all of Armstrong's receivers, and we're hoping to kind of scale up and build larger transmitters. So probably where William really fit into this is they were doing tests with the Army in the Signal Corps, and this is from April 7th, 1939. They're testing FM communication from aircraft. So looking at already replacing the previous generation of aircraft radio. So while William isn't mentioned in here by name, given his role with the aircraft department, very likely he was involved in this in some way. And basically they were running all these tests, inviting the FCC up here, and the FCC, the FAA, and trying trying to convince them that FM was better than AM. Okay, so in 1943, here's William in front of a bank of equipment. He's actually crammed into an automobile, which was a test emergency radio car that he and GE had designed to drive around the capital region. So the antenna is, you had bumper wire antenna. So speaker mounted above one of the windows. For somebody more astute in automobiles by me, you can probably figure out the make of the car. And then essentially GE basically kind of ripped out the back half of the car, and somebody would drive the car while William kind of faced backward, operating a lot of the radio equipment. And this is from an engineering guide from 1947, right after the war, and they had already commercialized the equipment, kind of gearing it towards taxi cab companies, the military, and police and fire departments. So in 1948, William's mother Jane dies, and by 1948, Henry is finally able to overcome the decades of licensing issues, and is licensed as K2AE. Once they got a license for that, then, and there's apparently there's a whole box of documentation at Cornell about the licensing challenges, and I guess there was a club called the Old Timers Club for 40 plus years in amateur radio, and so the next challenge was getting Henry in that, and basically tying everything back to that Henry was one of the first operators ever, because he was on stage with Tesla. So around like 53, 54, they were successful, and then Henry and William basically became the first father-son team to be in the Old Timers Club. Henry started another early morning club called the Pajama Club, and go back to that first picture. Henry was wearing purple pajamas. I guess he was well known for the purple pajamas, and was known as Purple Pajama number 3. So in 1959, at the age of 94, Henry passes away and becomes a silent key, and the K2AE is assigned to SARA. And for this, and this is in the SARA station. This is a oversized medallion that Henry had made for the centennial of William's birth in 1965. And here's Henry's Collins console, also in the SARA station. So after the war, Henry moves from engineering into becoming a district sales manager for GE's electronics division. And he retires in 1965. And he retires, but he never stops as an adventurer and a learner. The picture here is from a profile that the GE Works News did on Henry in 1984. And according to that profile, Henry never owned an automobile, but always kept a motorcycle. And apparently he never had a telephone at home.
That's William.
Or William, sorry, yeah. And never had a telephone because he felt them to be too distracting. So in terms of his adventures that you can kind of piece together from different sources, as an aviator, the motorcycle, loved Florida camping trips, earlier in life, kind of the winter sports, and apparently also uranium prospecting. And he never stopped learning. After he retired, he gained a law degree from the New England School of Law, a master's in communication from Murray State, down, I believe, in Kentucky, and wrote his thesis about his partnership with Henry in amateur radio. And it really was kind of a strong bond between father and son, and in some ways was really kind of defined by radio. And he always took all sorts of other classes, music, computer science. In 1936, he even was taking French classes at the Schenectady Vocational School. So here's the article from the Works News in 1984. And a Wild Bill, a free spirit in retirement. These are a couple pictures of his aircraft. He operated a whole series of seaplanes. He had a Luscombe in Aeronca, Piper Cubs. And then later in life, he really became known locally for his philanthropy. And this was a list that William had created in 1990 as he was preparing to create the Broughton Foundation. You just see that he's been very generous to SARA, to his alma mater Cornell, especially to the museum over the years, and the Boys and Girls Club. You know, a number of scholarships. There's a scholarship through ARRL, the community college, and then by 1994, the Broughton Foundation is established and really continues to this day to provide money locally to support science and education. So I've seen conflicting dates for SARA, be it 1971 or 1972, but the station was dedicated in 76 as the Henry Prim Broughton Memorial Station, and is still going strong at the museum today. Then in September 1994, William dies at Ellis Hospital at the age of 92. And then to just kind of finish up here, a few of the sources that I was able to locate around William. And so a Cornell student in 2004 wrote a 50-page paper about William and his father and amateur radio, and so interesting read that's available online, the SARA 50th anniversary newsletter, and a article from the March 11th QST by John Dilks. And so I'm finished with the presentation, and we'll be both ready to take any questions, and also if anyone has memories to share of William. There's probably a few people here that probably known him back in the day. Just love to hear those.
Hey, Chris, this is Bob from Niskayuna. I don't know that it's just probably a small matter, but on the caption in the motorcycle photo, you had indicated that I think you were saying that the motorcycle was a Windjammer 3. In fact, the motorcycle appears to be a Moto Guzzi. Windjammer was the model of a Vetter fairing, and so that designation that you see emblazoned is actually the fairing of it. So, I mean, it's a small point,
Okay.
but the fact that he had one is remarkable. I happen to have been very fortunate in knowing the guy who invented it, and I have the prototype of the Vetter fairing, so I have that same exact one on my motorcycle. So when do you think that picture was taken? Do you have a sense of it? Was that in the 90s?
That would have been 1984.
84. Okay. Thank you. It's a great photograph. I'm surprised he hasn't got an antenna on the back of the motorcycle.
Oh yeah, through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, we also have most of the photos that were used in the Works News. So there's actually, we probably actually have that from a couple different angles.
Yes.
Bill spent a lot of time on that motorcycle. He did a lot of touring, and I heard a story about why he gave it up. He was a pretty small guy in stature, didn't weigh very much. The machine weighed far more than he did, and it fell over once, and he needed help getting it back up, and he said, that's it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's about a 700-pound motorcycle, because I had the same thing, exact same thing happen to me, but I had 3 guys around me to help me write it. So
Yeah, there was actually a reference to it being a 700-pound motorcycle. So.
And I think he was far from home when that happened, and he had to rely on strangers.
yeah, that'll do it.
I just happened to have a copy of that the 50th anniversary, 1980 SARA News. And it is a very nice article on Henry Prim Broughton. I'll figure out a way to reproduce that portion of the newsletter.
Yeah, it's actually up on the SARA webpage.
True. That's right. I think we posted that when we unearthed these from a collection of SARA materials at Union College a couple years ago. So yeah, that's good. Maybe I'll just make a reference to it. But very, very good reading. Goodness. So.
Chris,
that was very informative.
Chris, do you have a picture of Henry in his purple pajamas?
Yeah, let me.
Well, I had that on my wall.
Any idea what that car weighed?
From 1943?
The one with all the radio equipment in there. I've seen some of those boat anchors before.
Yeah, there's Henry in the purple pajamas.
Okay, I missed that, but
Yeah.
I had a picture of him on my wall as a novice, and he was standing at that big rack-mounted transmitter in his purple pajamas, and I think he sent that out. It was an 8.5 by 11 color printed piece, and I think he sent it out to all the SARA members back in the late 50s.
Oh, Chris, I was going to ask you before you got out of your share view whether you could show the medallion again. And,
Okay.
and Where is that located? Is that in the museum?
Yeah. Yeah, for that is in the radio room.
I was down there and took a picture of another medallion that appears to be the same size that has an image of Henry on it.
That's the other side.
That's the other side.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I can't remember who I was with that didn't clue me in. I'll have to come down and get another picture because we have the front side or the reverse of this picture appearing on some banners and even on our QSL card. So maybe I could arrange to get a photo from you if that's possible.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Of this particular one, or if you have one that's better.
Hey, Bob, I thought we got both sides of that.
Well, you know, relying on my memory for things like that is probably not a wise approach. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I don't remember seeing that before, James, but it's very possible. I think that's why I was with you.
Yeah, because I think we were going to do both sides, one on each side of the banner, and then we decided just to go with the one side. But I mean, check your photos if you still have them.
Yeah, I will do that. And if not, I'll reach out to Chris to get a copy. Thank you.
James?
Chris?
Somebody's
Aliens are landing.
Yeah, that's Tim. He had 2 instances online.
James?
Verbal feedback. Yeah.
oh, hold on.
Chris, I have a comment for you.
I think he got muted. I was trying to mute one of Tim's, and I think I got Chris by accident because everybody moved.
I don't know if Tim is aware, but you have 2 connections to this meeting. Oh, he's having a conversation with somebody.
Chris,
Yes. Yeah.
I have a comment for you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, this is Skip Evans, W2YJL. I had the pleasure of being invited by Henry and his son Bill to lunch at his house on Parkwood Boulevard. And some of this equipment you were showing was familiar to me, but my eyes were wide open with all that transmitter racks and racks of it, and his antenna farm out in the backyard. So this was back in like 1940, 48, 49.
Skip, did he turn the lights on for you?
No, I didn't see any lights, but he took me down in his cellar. He showed me all the parts that he had. It was fantastic.
Yeah, one of the stories I had heard from, and I don't know who, we had a speaker years ago, probably back in the early 90s. I talked about Broughtons, and one of the things that I heard something about him taking airplanes or whatever, using airplanes a lot. And then I heard something about him, I think there was only like a 25-watt light bulb in his house.
Well, this was in the daytime, noontime, so I didn't.
Well, maybe we're lucky. I know, Tim, do you remember that long?
I was in his house in the wintertime once. When I was in high school, somehow I was voted a student representative to the board of directors. And the board meetings used to rotate from one home to another. And it became Bill's turn in the middle of the winter. And everybody was warned, wear your winter coats because Bill doesn't pay for heating oil.
There was yeah, and I remember a couple things. Like one of the things that I had heard at this meeting was, and I don't know if it was Henry or which one of them was, or if it was Bill, that they made donations to the Girl Scouts. In fact, one of the things that's in the Broughton Broughton Foundation's list is that um, he won't support an organization with gas heat. Because I guess at one time and I hope I'm not making this up or remembering it wrong, because I'd heard that the Girl Scouts building burned up or something because it was a faulty gas furnace. I kind of remember that. Chris, are you still there?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, all right. I was
Yeah.
wondering, I don't know if you've heard anything about that or.
No. I never heard that one.
Yeah, that's. And unfortunately, I don't remember who gave us that speech, but that was years ago.
Yeah, if it was the 90s, it could have even been Jim Pontius.
That's probably who it was.
Hey, James, I found the photographs which I took with you on January 17th of 2017. I have 48 photographs of the front, not one of the back. So I think I was
Wow.
unaware. So I'd like to work with you or Chris to maybe capture some images of that beautiful reverse side of the medallion.
Yeah,
Huh.
whenever
Yeah.
Chris can. What is the schedule down at the museum now? Are they allowing people to come down there now, or is it just everything's being renovated in downstairs?
Well, actually, we're kind of in the point where we're getting ready to do the renovations. We've got a meeting about the timeline on Wednesday with the engineers that are working on it. So I don't know the exact timeline on that right now, but I'm in just about every day, so it's no problem for me to take a few good pictures of it.
All right, Bob, I'll send you an email with Chris's email address so you guys can chat back and forth on that.
Okay, no urgency. It's just such a wonderful piece of history and nostalgia for both clubs. I'd like to, maybe we replace the ARRL emblem on our QSL card with the reverse of the medallion.
And I know Dave Bradshaw is supposed to be stopping down sometime to pick up some piece of equipment. So yeah.
Chris, just
Chris, I have a question,
Sure.
Chris. The station at the museum, does that have all that common equipment currently? I mean, does the station at the museum currently have common equipment?
The Collins equipment is definitely down at the museum.
Okay, I saw some pictures. Equipment was built into a wall or cabinets or something.
It's built into a large kind of gray metal console.
Okay. I did some work at the museum club way back in maybe the early 80s. We had a bunch of junk.
So
Tim.
I've got a question for Chris.
Oh,
Chris, do you know if either the Broughtons or maybe both of them had any relationship to Union College Electrical Engineering Department or their amateur station W2UC? Just a kind of an off the wall question.
not that we're specifically aware of. I mean they were kind of Cornell men, but I'm sure there must have been some connection. Just being in Schenectady and sharing the interest in amateur radio.
The Collins equipment at the museum, is it operational?
I think, and I'm speaking out of turn, but I think we would like to have somebody that knows how to use it go through it and make sure that it's operational.
They
If that
want
makes
to do
any
that
sense.
sooner.
Wouldn't that be Larry's job?
It hasn't been fired up in quite some time, and we really would love to see someone who has more experience with it than most of our members.
You may
That
want
list
need
is
to start with
shrinking.
recapping it.
Well, we're looking for volunteers or people that are willing to help, and it could be a nice learning project for a lot of people.
But you might not have to recap it.
Exactly. We don't know.
What year is it, roughly?
I would think probably 70. No, right?
70s, you'd want to recap it. General rule of thumb is you'd want to recap it. You might get away without doing it, but you'd want to recap it.
Last time I knew we had that operational, it was downstairs. I don't remember what year we moved downstairs, but it was soon after that. It wasn't operated after that. Chris, do you remember what year the station got moved downstairs?
Yeah, that was probably what, 2003-ish or so, or
Yeah, I think that's the last time it was operated.
yeah.
I know we had a problem with the power supply, and we did send that out and have it repaired, and it came back, but we haven't gone anywhere through anything since then. That was a few years back.
So I agree. I'm not an expert at anything, okay? But your capacitors, your electrolytic capacitors need to be replaced. There's no doubt. As was stated before.
Oh yeah, never a bad idea in any old piece of electronics.
If that's made you work.
Well, we did have, I feel terrible. I can't remember his call sign. Hal Russell was going to look at it. And then shortly after he said he was going to, he moved out to California and then soon after passed away. So that's where we were at with it. And then we had another gentleman, I can't remember his call or his name at this point. And he said, "Oh, sure, we'll do that. Great." And then very soon we didn't hear back from him. So anybody with expertise with the Collins gear, we would certainly welcome to have a look, and, we'll go from there.
I was going to say, years ago, Steve Short renewed this old RCA AM shortwave rig for me.
How Russell kept that Collins gear running for years.
Yeah, your audio is horrible.
Tim, you're in there
Bandwidth.
twice.
I'm lucky that you can hear me at all. You know that.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Can't do anything about it.
Can anybody delete his second? The one with his call sign is the one that's not doing anything.
That's the only one that's stable.
No, there's a yellow line around the one that says Timothy Long.
Calls, the one that's the only one that I can stop on. It keeps dropping off.
I didn't know electrons could move that slow.
Tim,
It's because of the snowstorm.
Tim, you have no idea what you sound like to the rest of us.
Oh, it'll be up on YouTube though.
Yeah, you can listen to it later.
Yeah.
All right, I'll remove the one with his call sign and see if that
Tim
fixes it.
Yeah. Just for information, the company called Hayseed Hamfest is
I think it removed itself, actually. Oh, no, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question for you, techies. Those pictures that showed that test rig in the automobile that looked like it was almost like an armored tank. Do you think that there were dynamotors that were used to generate high voltage for the transmitters? Is that the
That would have
most
been the
likely
standard
way?
method.
I see Mark shaking his head. That was the most likely way to at that time period?
Yeah, that was very common. Dynamotors.
What do you figure that car weighed?
And I was pondering that, but I was also pondering the dipole antenna that ran right across his forehead in that photo.
Yeah, I'd keep his head warm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like a tight fit in there.
Well, that's what the hat was for, protect him from the radiation.
Anyway, just a quick note on these Collins rigs. Company called Hayseed Hamfest has capability of, they basically stuff cans with, fresh capacitors, either made to order or they already have kits for different popular receivers. I didn't see Collins, but they have plenty of other brands. The point is that, as far as good sized electrolytics, they won't be hard to come by. They're just a little expensive, but not crazy. But that would be a first step in the whole process.
I think my Kenwood TS530 was about 60, maybe $70 from them or somebody else. I forget who I bought them from.
All right, I think Tim's back.
Well, his video seems to be moving better.
Oh,
I hate to volunteer somebody else, but Steve Rosenberg, WA2 Tango Tango Papa, sold a bunch of Collins equipment recently. Audio is terrible, Tim.
The ghost of Tim Long.
Anyway, Steve, WA2 TTP, sold his Collins equipment recently, but he really knows it inside out. He might be a good consultant.
okay.
I would also think, in my reading of not too long ago issues of QST, that people have written articles about this very topic, and there's probably a lot of people who can provide expert guidance, Jim Silva, on to your point about not only where to get parts, but how to go about the process of preserving such an extraordinary line of amateur radio equipment. I was catching up on QST the other night, and that's what's popped into my head is I think I just read an article within the last year or year and a half.
Well, do we have any more questions for Chris?
Great, Chris, this was some great material. Thank you.
Yes.
I have a comment about recapping.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. That was entertaining.
Thank you, everyone in SARA and everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're hoping to get down there soon, and well, somebody's going up on the tower to do some work up there.
Yeah, in the spring.
Springtime.
Yeah. The pile of parts are in my hallway here. They've been sitting here almost 2 years now.
Winter climbing's no fun.
Chris, what is the Broughton's helping out with SARA doing? I mean the museum. Are they doing much?
Well, I think we need to ask them to do something like I know SARA still had some needs, and we have this communications exhibit coming up, so I know we're definitely thinking about talking about going back to them for some more funding.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that would be interesting for us to get, to give them our list at the same point, I would think.
Yes, yeah. Do it jointly, and that it's kind of do in kind of with the goal of doing some some big programming during the run of this exhibit in 2022. And
Well, I'm sure I'm speaking semi for most of the members of SARA, as we've had discussions in the past about it. One thing that is one of our priorities is try and get the Collins Station up and running again. And of course, we wanted to at some point actually put it up on the main floor. But of course, with having a station available to view, of course, then you're also looking for people to operate it. And of course, SARA has some members that are able to, but of course, we definitely would be reaching out across to SARA to also possibly have volunteers to operate during the day as people have available, especially during the exhibit, which would be excellent, and they could answer questions about amateur radio and some of the older gear and what have you. I know we've had discussions in our board meetings over at SARA, and we've still trying to get the station up and running again. And of course, that's going to be a quite a project, but it looks like we have till fall of 2022 now, which will give us a little more time to figure out where things are going.
I have a comment about recapping.
Okay, go ahead, Bob.
I think if you take the receiver, plug it into the AC outlet, or plug it into a variac, and allow maybe 60 volts AC to get into the receiver, and you let it run that way for a while, and then the capacitor electrolytic will reform.
Many people do that, and it's definitely a good practice. Unfortunately, when you get back that far, you're on a very high risk that even if they reform, that they'll simply they'll fail, shorting out.
Agreed.
Possibly taking a rectifier tube or something with it.
If it was like within 5 years, capacitors can be reformed, but outside of that, risky business then.
And to Mark's point, the failure modes obviously are open or short, and short is pretty catastrophic.
It's dramatic.
Yeah, we do not want to release any magic smoke.
Yeah, so no, the rule of thumb for this is do not plug it in. Thorough inspection would be first, but recapping is, it would be unwise to actually plug it in without being recapped.
Well, let's think about the scenario that James talked about, bringing the station up to the main floor of the museum and then smoking it during a public demonstration. You can't buy PR like that.
Make sure the cameras are running, because it's going to be only once.
Pay no attention to the man behind the smoking Collins.
Exactly.
And I don't think that's legal in New York State yet.
Smoking Collins?
Smoking Collins.
Chris, just a comment to you. You may be fully aware of this because, of your close relationship with SARA, but several years ago, our field day was rebranded as the Broughton Memorial Field Day when we combined clubs. So we have been for several years going forward with that. So
okay.
The Broughton family is the forward representation of amateur radio for both Schenectady clubs, and we're very proud of that. So that just tails on to the history that you've helped preserve and share with us. So
Cool.
I got a quick question for Chris. Where in the world did you unearth that very pretty picture of the child? Just in the very first picture that you showed. Child on top of the radio looking, or at least on top of the table, tuning the radio.
Yes.
I think the child was optional when you bought one of those radios.
Yeah, that is one of our GE publicity photos from, I think that was probably 1922. And in that particular, I believe she's with a Radiola 4. And the child is actually, somehow somebody figured out who the child was at one point. It was Barbara Wagner, who was the daughter of Clyde Wagner, one of the GE publicity managers.
Wow. And that's a keeper.
And that second photo of the guy with the discs brings new meaning to the concept of a disc jockey.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, we actually have, we basically have WGY's entire photo collection. There's about 5,000 photos.
Wow.
Going back to just about the very beginning and into the late 50s.
It's a curious question as a curator, Chris. When you have 2 million photos from GE and 5,000 from WGY, are they being, or are they already digitized in some way? Do you scan them all?
We're working on that. Yeah, we're actually up in a couple different places. We actually have a lot more digitized than we have online. There's actually like a big cataloging backlog there, but we're on this site called New York Heritage, which is basically the local library councils from around the state all got together and the software that nobody could buy individually. And there's about 200 museums and libraries represented there. And we've got about, I think, 12,000 images right now.
Wow. Yeah, I'm facing that same kind of capture problem now. And, I have a flatbed scanner and, the typical stuff. And it was I just extrapolated the numbers out, and I'm going to die long before I can do it. And then somebody turned me on, a family member turned me on to, of all things, a smartphone application called PhotoMine. And if some of you are aware of it, it is the most extraordinary artificial intelligence photo capture. And I reduced, photo captures from 45 seconds each down to 4 seconds each. And it's completely automated. It's very tolerant of positioning. So just wanted to make you aware that there's technology emerging coming out of the AI business and facial recognition for capturing historical visual artifacts that make the process a lot more streamlined.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we're looking at all sorts of different things. And we actually had Google. We had Google come in with one of their 130 megapixel cameras a couple of years ago, and they photographed all of our street lighting photos. We have 25,000 photos of GE streetlight installations going back to the 1890s. And so there's about 15,000 of those up in Google Arts and Culture. And yeah, their system is actually pretty good at tagging things and tagging things that in a way that I wouldn't have necessarily thought of. One of the tags they came up with was symmetry, and I never would have thought of doing that, of tagging things for symmetry, and that's actually some of the most beautiful photos in the entire collection.
How's my audio? I have a Bill Broughton story to tell.
Yep.
Much better.
Much.
Is it understandable?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, good.
GFQ.
You'll find now.
The story I have to tell is, about 40 years ago, I visited Bill Broughton at his Parkwood Plaza home. He advertised in the GE Works News that he had free QSTs to give away. And I was an adult, I was working, but free is free. So I took him up on the offer. So I visited him at his home, and it was night. And the odd thing is, he only heated 2 rooms in the house. One was his shack and one was his bedroom. And every other room in the house was cold as hell because it was wintertime. He had a visitor in his shack at the time, W2FW. The original W2FW is Jack Nelson.
Wow.
Jake Nelson, he went by. And the two of them were were in the shack playing with the radio, and I was there to get QSTs. He got a bunch of all of the QSTs that he had to give away came from Uncle Dave Fort Orange Radio in
Uncle Dave
Albany
Mark.
when they were in business. And Fort Orange Radio gave all of the old QSTs that weren't sold to Bill. And Bill, once the closet got filled, Bill advertised to give them away. So that's how I got there and got a bunch of QSTs. And I met Bill and I got to see his shack. But I couldn't stay long because my wife was waiting in the car.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
You still have any of them?
I still have them all.
Oh, man. You need any more?
And in fact, if you want them, you can have them.
Jim, I got a pickup truck and I know where he lives. I'll swing by.
Hey, Tim, how
I'll
Andrew,
bring
thank
mine
you.
over with yours.
Actually,
Mine are all in the colony landfill.
how far back does your collection go, Tim?
Hey, Tim, Tim Long.
Offhand, I don't know. And at least the 50s.
oh, yeah.
Hey, Tim.
Okay, I'm not interested. I have them all. In fact, I have every USC from 1928 to the present.
Wow. Wow.
Hey, Tim.
They're not digitized.
I think Skip's trying to break through there.
Tim Long. I have a quick comment for Tim Long.
Go ahead.
You mentioned Jack Nelson. He was my mentor and got me started in ham radio, W2FW.
Well, now there was a pack rat. He had every SARA news we would bring. We always had a tray, a show and tell, and a trade to a little flea market in the back of the room before the meeting, and there was always you could always count on Jack to bring some junk that was old and useless, and he would try to sell it.
I remember that.
Was he with the Albany Club?
No, this was Schenectady.
Oh, Schenectady. Okay.
Yeah, the back of the couple of cafeteria tables back there, there was always all kinds of junk on it.
That's right. That was all Jack's junk.
Oh, I
They
remember
used
that
to-
now. Okay, now I know why it's familiar.
There used to be an auction in December too. Did anybody remember that?
Yeah, Bill Schwarting was the auctioneer.
Yeah.
Boy, was he loud.
Yeah, that was the fun of the Schenectady High School cafeteria, is that you could have all this wheeling and dealing going on in all the corners of the room and still have presentations and auctions and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We had acreage to work with, so the noise wasn't an issue.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
You know,
Now we have Zoom.
yeah.
Well, we can still buy and
The
sell stuff
magic
here.
of mute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very true, Jared.
I
Still buy
was
and sell.
I was impressed with the SARA, virtual auction Saturday. I didn't participate myself, but I saw the applications for it. It sounded like it was, I don't know, pretty reasonably practical.
Let's see if we have any more questions for Chris, then I'll end this recording. For Chris, if anybody's got anything. Okay. Great. Chris, I definitely want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule
You're
and
welcome.
visiting with us. I know I don't have a face to show you, but
It was good to see everyone. Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure you know probably exactly who this is, but it's good to have you around, and good that you guys are keeping all that information.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Chris, were you ready to get your ham radio license?
Oh, I've never gotten it, and The museum keeps me so busy.
Great
Chris-
presentation. Thank
Chris,
you very
it's-
much.
It's like
Thank you,
25,
Chris.
it's like 35 questions, right? I think it is, right?
You can do it, Chris.
Like I tell people, I got a lot of expensive hobbies.
The next time we meet down there for a club meeting for SARA, we'll do a test session for you.
Can you still
back-
do that with two VEs?
I'm sure I can be talked into it.
Three.
All right, because there's a lot of people down there that I think would enjoy getting their licenses.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s, my two daughters got their, they went through the classes at the museum and took their exam there, and they both became novices at age 10 and 12.
There you go.
Got my general code at the museum, and I took my my techno code down there. Passed my novice in tech theory.
See how it works, Chris? We just, as a group, embarrass you into it.
Yeah.
Actually,
All right.
surprising in like probably 10 plus years now that I've never gotten the hard sell before.
Good to know.
Well, I think one of the leveraging points for most people is it's way easier than people would think.
Yeah.
You know, certainly compared to what it was when most of us got licensed, you know, or some number of us got licensed 50, 60 years ago. You can get a manual and in probably a couple of weeks easily get the entry exams under your belt and then decide from there where you want to go. But just like owning a boat, it can become, you know, a black hole for your hard-earned income.
The ham test online would be a great place to go. Hamstudy.org. Those are two good websites to go to, or even Ham Prep. You know, one of the things about these Zoom meetings and about this whole thing is there's a lot of great YouTube videos up now for people promoting ham radio and promoting licenses and that kind of thing. So Ham Radio 2.0, that's been one of my favorite places to go watch videos. I've been watching them there because they're doing a lot of stuff about, you know, promoting new radios. They test them out, test out antennas, all kinds of other stuff. And they've also done a lot of the manuals or the testing information, questions and answers. So it's a good place to go.
There's an online YouTube channel that's called 100 Watts in a Wire that's run by a fellow, and I don't know how many of you were there last night, but they ran a session with the producer of the show Last Man Standing, which stars Tim Allen, and I'm sure all of you know Tim Allen's history. And you might be aware that amateur radio was intentionally a very strong player in this entire series, Last Man Standing. It didn't have just like a background role where they went to the prop master and said, get me something that looks like a radio, and it had nothing to do with it. So it's getting a lot of press, and they're having an event sometime in the next 2 weeks. It's like a contest, and they're overwhelmed with applications already for participating in this. So amateur radio is getting a little bit of a click up with respect to advertising and, you know, its understanding by the populace in general.
Hey guys, I'm bowing out. Chris, very good.
Let me kill this meeting real quick.